Hello, my name's Kat Loftus. Welcome to episode 11 of A Slice of Pie podcast, where we feature interesting people from Pawleys Island and the surrounding areas. This week on episode 11, we feature Hampton Peace, owner and broker in charge at Peace Sotheby's International Realty, where I work. You'll hear about Hampton's early life, his insights into real estate, and some of his hobbies. I learned a lot of things about Hampton that I never knew, and you will too. So sit back and enjoy episode 11 of A Slice of Pie podcast. Good morning, Hampton. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Kat. How are you?
Good. Welcome to episode 11 of A Slice of Pie podcast. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you for asking. I'm flattered.
Well, I just want to tell our listeners that Hampton trained me very well as a broker in charge. So Hampton is my broker in charge here at Peace Sotheby's International Realty in Pawleys Island. And one time I had to make a phone call to a client and tell them something that was difficult to tell them. I consulted Hampton and asked him what I should do. And Hampton told me, if you can't make those difficult phone calls, maybe you shouldn't be a realtor. So thanks to Hampton.
I hope I was a little softer than that.
Maybe you were, maybe you weren't. But I wasn't sure that I was going to get to interview Hampton, so I just kept trying and say thank you for finally having time to do this. I appreciate
your patience.
Yeah, I wasn't going to give up. So anyway, so Hampton, the first thing I want you to do is just tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, like where were you born and raised?
Well, I was raised here, but actually born in Hampton, Virginia. It has nothing to do with my name, but my father was in the Navy, and this was back in the 1960s, and apparently the Norfolk Naval Hospital didn't have the best maternity ward, so I was born on Langley Air Force Base in Hampton, Virginia.
How about that?
Dad got out of the Navy and headed right back to South Carolina. So my brothers and I are raised right here.
Okay, so you were raised in Georgetown County. Were you? I know that you were raised in Debbie, correct? Is that where you always lived?
No, when Dad came back to South Carolina, we lived in a family beach house on Pawleys Island for a couple of years. Built a home in North Litchfield, and I probably lived in North Litchfield until I was about 12.
Oh, really? Something I did not know about you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we moved to Devereux in the early 80s. And Mom and Dad still live in the same house.
They do. I love your mom and dad. They are great people. Very easy to be around. You just made me think about something. I believe Pat, my husband, said that your dad used to own a men's store. Is that correct?
It is. Dad figured with 3 boys and as many clothes as we were going through as we were growing up, that probably wasn't a bad idea. But Dad, after the Navy, had come back here and gotten into business with his best friend and was part owner of Nautica Marine Center in Georgetown with Jim Johnston. And it got to the point where the business needed to grow and relocate, and I think Dad was ready to do something else. So he approached another friend of his, or maybe the friend approached him about buying the Hammock Shop men's store. And he did that for a while, and ironically sold it right back to the friend that he bought it from. And then he retired, and I guess that would have probably been about 86.
So tell us about some of the memories you have growing up here with your dad and your brothers. What are some things y'all did while you were growing up that were not in school, but some fun things y'all did?
Well, I can't talk about half of those because you sure couldn't do them today. But we spent as much time as possible on the water. We were fishing, we were surfing, catching shrimp, walking on the beach. I mean, if we were outside, we tried to be in or on the water.
So lots of good memories with your dad.
Oh yeah, still making memories with him.
Yeah. And so now let's move on to college. Now, where did you go to college?
The College of Charleston.
Okay.
I couldn't get away from the beach.
Okay. And you met your wife there?
No,
you did not?
I actually met my wife on the beach at Devereux when we were in high school.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so back then there was hardly anyone down here, and in the winter it was pretty quiet. It was pretty quiet still in the summer, but some friends and I would make a bonfire on the beach every now and then. If there were any young people, they would generally migrate down the beach towards the bonfire, and that's where I met her.
So, took a bonfire.
to the bonfire. But we reconnected in college,
Okay.
and started dating seriously right at the end of college, and became engaged soon after, and then married.
That's great. Okay, so tell us about your family.
Two adult children. My son Hampton is actually working with us in our Myrtle Beach commercial real estate division, SV Peace and Company. And my daughter Ansley is in Nashville, Tennessee. Ansley is currently doing some work for, I believe, the Census Department, and she is a UX designer, a user experience designer for websites, apps, that sort of thing.
Smart. She's a really smart girl. Wow. Does a lot.
So,
Very talented.
she's just gotten into that, and this is sort of a project for her. She's not employed by the Census Bureau, but this was something that came up that'd give her some experience. And that's what she's doing.
I know she's enjoying being in Nashville. That's a fun place to be. And tell us about your wife, Boo. Boo's real name is Elizabeth, but
Elizabeth, but everyone knows her as Boo. If you called her Elizabeth, no one would know who you were talking about.
And so she has been busy lately becoming famous with Mimi Seabrook, hasn't she?
She's found a new career. So my sister-in-law was looking for a new career, and she opened up a ladies' clothing boutique. And she recruited a lot of her friends to come in and help her. And in addition to working in the store, they do reels, video reels, and model the clothing and basically have a lot of fun. And she is really enjoying that.
Well, Boo is perfect to do that because she's always been into fitness, been a fitness instructor, and
that's true.
She's very fit, very attractive, so she looks good in the clothes, and the clothes look good on her. So she's the perfect one to do that. So I know they're having a lot of fun doing that. And I think we talked about that in the episode 9, Mimi Seabrook. So if you haven't seen that one, go back and watch that one or just go to Mimi Seabrook Instagram page because the reels are just the best. They're
They have a lot of fun.
I believe you've been featured on one of those reels for Father's Day.
Every now and then, the husbands and significant others have been drafted to make an appearance.
So kind of you to do, but it's very entertaining, I have to say. It's just shocking and entertaining every single time.
Well, we are told exactly what we are supposed to do. Trust me.
You're good soldiers, so I can't wait for the next one on that. Let's move over to real estate now. So how did you get into real estate?
By accident. So after college, I was selling fishing tackle for Wallace Pate, who had developed Devereux. Actually, Wallace had a hand in developing the Litchfield beaches and Devereux.
Yes.
So he made a big mark on this part of the world. And in the building where I was selling fishing tackle, the development company was coming together that repurchased Devereux from the Resolution Trust Corporation in the early 1990s. So as the fishing tackle enterprise was winding down, Wallace was battling cancer, and he was in the last stages of that. They offered me a job with the development team to come on board and sell real estate. So 1992, I made a career change. I've been
How old were you?
Gosh, I was young, probably 23.
23. You were out of college?
Out of college for a year or so, and now I'm 53, so yeah, 30 years.
How about that? Congratulations on your work anniversary. So you were selling at Devereux? Is that what you were selling?
I was. We were selling primarily developer product, which at that time would have been home sites. Eventually, we had some villas, condominiums to sell, and then we also were handling resales for the Devereux community. So
okay, all right.
Started to learn not just development sales, but residential brokerage sales too.
Okay, all right. So how about that? So you were going along doing that, and then at what point did you become the broker in charge? Because I know you had a lot of brokers. I remember the previous broker in charge. So who did you work for? Who were some of the people you worked for?
Well, I started working for Tim Casey.
I do remember that.
Tim has since passed. Tim was the broker in charge, and then his partner, John Trotter, was one of the general partners there. John became the broker in charge, and I worked under him for a number of years until one day he recruited me and my brother to basically become his successor.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no intention of doing that, but it sounded like a pretty good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So I got my broker's license, went to work for him, and I think I was the sales manager for a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
And then we closed that transaction, owned the real estate company. That would have been in 2000 and, gosh, I believe 2006.
Mm-hmm.
Time has flown. Um, yeah, and been the broker in charge almost continuously ever since. Don Thomas relieved me of those duties for a
Yeah,
couple of years,
yeah,
gave me a little bit of breathing room.
yeah.
But
Don did a great job. We miss Don. I mean, he's still here, but anyway.
well, Don was ready to spend more time with his growing brood of grandchildren.
Yes, and I don't fault him for that. So I'm trying to remember your time as broker in charge with our company. So did you work there? Because I know Perry was at another company for a long time, being very successful with another company in Pawleys Island.
When we first started, well, we weren't working together. I'd gotten into real estate. Perry had been living down in the Florida Keys, working in a fishing tackle shop. And at some point, he figured he needed to uh, find a career that probably brought him back to South Carolina. I think he loved the Keys, but uh, he had some, I guess, longing to come back.
Mm-hmm.
So he went to work for Doc Lashcott, the Lashcott Company.
Mm-hmm.
And Doc's been a family friend of our family for, gosh, not just generations, but probably close to 100 years. Doc recently passed away, but Perry was very happy there. And one day I was so frustrated that I had been working so long, continuously, wasn't spending any time with my children, uh, hardly seeing my wife. And I told Perry, I said, if you will come over here and work with me, we'll be partners 50-50. The day you come, you get 50% of everything that closes. I said, but I got to get my life back.
Mm-hmm.
He did, and we started to have fun.
Oh,
Started to have a lot of fun working together.
okay.
And it didn't seem like work anymore.
Well, good. That was a good decision then. So you're going along, and it's at that point it was called Deputy Real Estate,
Deputy Colony Real Estate.
right? So and it remained that way until what year? Let's see. Well, there was a change. Remember, there was a change that happened. There was a resolution that was passed, and that kind of started something.
So the real estate company and the development company had an exclusivity arrangement, really from the developer on, where all of the resale properties were handled through the real estate company.
Mm-hmm.
But that was something that could be voted upon and changed by the homeowners association.
Right.
And I think they voted that in 2013,
Mm-hmm.
which was probably the third or fourth time that they voted on it. So, for a long time, they weren't sure whether they wanted it or whether they didn't want it.
Mm-hmm.
But when it changed, what it did for us was it gave us the ability to guilt-free move beyond Devereux Colony.
Right.
So we purchased this building and opened the Tidelands Company in 2014, 2015. Mm-hmm. I probably ought to know the years a little bit better, but they all kind of run together.
Well, I've been a realtor for about 7 years. So what year are we in? 2023. Take away 7 is 2016, 2015.
Well, 2014. Uh-huh. And then one day out of the blue, my good friend Carol Giroux called me and said, I need to come speak with you for a few minutes. And I'm like, sure. You never know what Carol was going to talk about. Mm-hmm. And she came into the office and she says, I have a great idea. I'm like, well, what is that? She goes, you need to buy us out.
And by us, and who was she talking about?
Carol and her partner, Philip Lamons, both of them good friends, owned Prince George Sotheby's International Realty. So they were the Sotheby's International Realty franchise that was in this area. And they had been really one of the first. They may have been the first in South Carolina, but they were a very early franchise for Sotheby's International Realty. And, Philip was the broker in charge, and Philip was and is a successful songwriter, and he was ready to follow his dream. And Carol wasn't wanting to take on the responsibility of owning and running the office all by herself, and we were very honored that they did that. So we went up to New Jersey and met with the good folks at Sotheby's International Realty, and they convinced us that that was a very good idea. So we did that in 2016 and rebranded Devereux Colony Real Estate and the Tidelands Company to Sotheby's International Realty, or Peace Sotheby's International Realty.
Well, I think that was a great idea. And you're the only broker I've ever worked for, so I've always enjoyed being here. I remember
Don't forget Don.
Oh, Don, that's right. I'm sorry, Don. I love you. Yes. But I remember when this building used to be some kind of pet grooming business. I don't know.
I think historically this building was originally a warehouse, and then it became a pet shop. There was a martial arts dojo in part of it. There was a window distributor or sales company in part of it. So the building's seen a lot of changes.
And who did you bring in to rework it?
We had a great team. So it started, Perry and I were driving down the highway, saw this sign, like, let's go take a look at that. So we went in, and the building wasn't much to look at then, but as they say, it had good bones. It's hard to beat a warehouse with a probably 2-foot thick concrete pad and brick walls and a good roof on it. So we enlisted the assistance of Michael Walker, a local architect. Michael came in and said, we can work with this. So Michael drew up a really great layout for us, and we worked with Harvey Moses and his team at Coastal Structures, who did an amazing job. We really haven't had to do anything to this building since 2016. I mean, it's been very functional and very low maintenance.
And it's attractive, very attractive.
And it's attractive.
Spacious.
And I'll give a plug to my other sister-in-law, Wynn Peace Designs. She did the furnishings and the color schemes, and finishes, and all those good things. Because I certainly wasn't the one to do that.
She's very talented. Hold on just a second. I want to check something with just 1 second, real quick. Okay, good. All right. So you buy this business. I want to go backwards for just a second. So when that resolution was passed in Devereux, and really what was happening is other realtors were allowed to come into the neighborhood.
It became an open market.
So, and you had to quickly think, and what can I do that's different? But did you already have plans to expand, or did that change? Was that like a catalyst for you to expand into a greater market? What do you think?
Well, I wouldn't say that was a sudden change. That was something that from day one we knew could be voted out by the Homeowners Association.
Right.
So the plan all along was to grow beyond Devereux when it changed, but not until it changed.
Okay, all right. So you open up this office and locate some realtors in this office, and then everything becomes Peace Sotheby's. And then you have more offices now.
We do. Well, we still have the office at Devereux. We have the office at Prince George. Right as COVID hit, we opened an office in North Myrtle Beach. And then we have a team of realtors in Charleston and a team of realtors joining us in a soon-to-be named location.
That's exciting. I don't even know about that, so I can't wait to hear about that. But this building that we're sitting in is in Pawleys Island. One of the best places to visit and go. I love being in Pawleys Island. So you've developed this, and we're moving along, and then it's grown, and you've added a lot of realtors.
Yeah, I think in the real estate business, it used to be very small business oriented, and the business is changing. So it's harder and harder to be a small real estate company unless the principals are really generating most of the revenue. So in this day and age, if you're not growing, you're probably fading.
So how have you seen real estate change since you came into the industry?
Well, I don't think I'm that old, but when I started, I was told to go to Walmart and buy an answering machine and some legal pads. And it might be a good idea to buy a calculator. So I bought a Texas Instruments calculator, probably a GE answering machine, and a stack of legal pads, and I was in business. Today, everything is online and in the cloud. But what hadn't changed is it's still a people business. You know, if you don't take care of the people, not just your clients, but the people that you work with, your customers, and just be a very good member of the community, then you're not going to be successful.
You're absolutely right about that. Yeah, I know that we try and keep, as a realtor myself, I try and make posts on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X, whatever you call it now, and the new one, Threads, and send out emails, blast to people, and notes in the mail. We do that too. But you are right. The absolute most effective way to have more clients is to have true relationships with people.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I miss the most about not selling real estate anymore. Now I'm the office guy. You know, I do help our agents, and occasionally I get the opportunity to help some of our clients. But most of the time, I'm worried about running the business, working with our team to make sure we're doing the best that we can across the board, whether it's technology, whether it's marketing, whether it's working with the agents. Keeping the facilities up. There's a lot that goes on in a small business.
What do you see the future of this business going? How do you see it growing and changing?
The real estate business itself is constantly evolving. I have no idea what the technology will be like in the future. You know, we've gone from cassette-based answering machines to cell phones that can take your videos, place your calls, be your calculator, be your marketing platform. I have no idea where we're going to go.
You could probably do a DocuSign on a cell phone.
You can do a DocuSign on a cell phone. I mean, again, when I started, we didn't even have color copiers.
Oh, gosh.
We used 35 millimeter film cameras to take pictures of anything, and the MLS dropped off books of available properties. I believe it was every 2 weeks.
Gosh.
And if you were marketing, it was either a sign on a property. I don't think anyone did a radio ad, or you had an ad in the newspaper.
So wow, so it was either print media or a sign in the yard. And you don't even see many signs in the yards these days just because of HOAs.
Yeah, a lot of HOAs don't allow
that. So everything is on your phones or some of your favorite real estate apps that a lot of people like to go to. So yeah, it's but I do think that the internet and the phone does make it a lot easier. So by the time you start working with a client, they have an idea of what they're looking for.
The consumer has never been better educated or had more tools to educate themselves or to assist in their shopping.
So that leads me to this question. Why is it still important for the consumer to use a realtor and not just try and buy it on their own? Why do you think?
I think it's more important than ever. Everything is more complicated. There's more noise, if you will, in the environment. So if you don't have a realtor, you have no idea, for the most part, about the ins and outs of the different homeowners associations. Contracts have become 10 to 15 pages, where I can remember when they were 3, in some cases 1. Flood zones constantly changing, the banking environment constantly changing. It's a much more complicated business than it used to be.
Yeah. And I do think of what we know, we don't even realize how much we know as realtors about all those, about HOAs, about flood zones, about financing, about negotiations, and just being that person in the middle that will protect the client from the other side a lot of times.
It's local and institutional knowledge. I mean, if you're going to buy a home, it makes a lot of sense to use a local realtor. If you're going to go into surgery, you're probably better off with a surgeon than with a physician that doesn't do surgery. I mean, in this day and age, as complicated as everything is, you want as much specialty knowledge as you can get to work for you.
Right. I was advising a friend, actually a family member, who was purchasing a condo in Charlotte, and it got sticky between her, and there was no realtor involved. It was just this person and the purchaser. She was the seller, that was the purchaser. And it became a little contentious. And I said to this person, don't ever go into these negotiations again without a realtor. Please hire a realtor the next time.
Well, that's the process. You know, I'm dealing with a situation right now where someone wanted to take some shortcuts,
Mm-hmm.
and they bought a piece of property and they didn't get a survey.
Mm-hmm.
The survey is very important if you're getting ready to build a home.
Mm-hmm.
And deferring that expense until after your purchase really doesn't make a lot of sense if you're going to have it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Have as much knowledge as possible
Absolutely.
when you're going in to making what is, for a lot of people, one of the most expensive purchases you'll ever make.
That's right. And it's your hard-earned money. So,
Yeah.
take care of your hard-earned money. Do your due diligence, take care of that due diligence period and look at everything you've got to look at. And your realtor is going to do that for you too. So look at all those things that you need to look at, all the inspections, surveys, flood zones, whatever.
Well, every situation is different.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, the knowledge that someone who has done similar transactions can bring to your transaction, very important.
That's right. That's right. So I agree wholeheartedly with that, because I have seen too often somebody that doesn't use a realtor and then they get into problems that they should have, or that somebody starts to try and sell the home by themselves and they're just not getting any movement on the house, and they finally hire a realtor and then that house does sell.
And every situation is different.
Mm-hmm.
In some cases, for some properties, the most valuable thing that a company like ours or agents like ours can bring to the table is the marketing breadth. I mean, Sotheby's International Realty is the global leading luxury real estate company out there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot to be said for that. But if you're going to move to an area like Pawleys Island from a state that could be 500 miles away or a country 5,000 miles away, you need local knowledge.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. But not only do we handle luxury properties, we handle all properties.
Oh, yeah, certainly. So with Sotheby's International Realty, what they want to do is, and what we want to do, is we want to handle the best of the best.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what your price range is, but we want to take a property that is special. It may be in the starting price range for a community, but we really shine when it's a property where we can explain the differences
Mm-hmm.
and the attributes to
Mm-hmm.
potential buyers.
That's right.
What makes it different?
That's right. There you go. So, and I think that our company, I know that our company ranks near the top of sales in our county, doesn't it, in our area? I think
we do. Depending on the time of year, we're not as big as a lot of other companies, but typically, even though we're smaller, we're usually within the top three, depending on the time of year.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, I don't think within our county we've been out of the top three since I've owned the company.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got great competitors. We
do
work in a great market, and our team does very, very well with really the higher end price point properties, as well as the starter homes. And we've done plantations, farmland, timber tracts. We kind of do a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything, that's right. And I personally love working with the clients who've saved their money and scraped their money a lot of times, and for able to finally purchase that first home. That's just very rewarding to be able to put them in their first home. So I really like doing that a lot. I like helping families a lot, putting them in the right neighborhood. So is there anything else you'd like to add that I didn't ask you about? Why do you think this company does so well? Do you think it's the people?
Absolutely, it's the people.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a great brand, but it's the people.
Yeah, I do love our staff. I get along with everybody on the team. So I think it is our people.
We have a collaborative environment. We're not afraid to go knock on someone else's door down the hall and say, hey, what do you think about this?
Mm-hmm.
We certainly keep the things that need to be confidential, but we have hundreds of years of experience
Mm-hmm.
in this company,
Mm-hmm.
and we leverage that to do as good a job as we can for our clients.
Yeah, and as you know, I was formerly a elementary school teacher, which is like a service job. But coming over to this job, it is also a service job. So I just don't see a whole lot of difference. You're serving people, you're helping people reach their goals.
Yeah,
and
it's
so
very rewarding.
it is very rewarding. Okay. Next question is: when you are not working, what do you like to do, or where do you like to go?
I like to travel,
Mhm.
but what do I do most of the time? My wife calls it just piddling around the house,
Mhm.
you know. But my hobbies are traveling, fishing, play a little golf, spending time with friends, family. Um, and I think every small business owner out there can relate to this. If you're not working, you're probably still thinking about work
Mhm.
and what you
Mhm.
can do differently,
Mhm.
what you can
Mhm.
do better. Um, but favorite places to go? Oh gosh.
That's what I wanted to know. What's your favorite places you've traveled?
Well, I've been fortunate enough to visit Africa a few times.
Mhm.
Africa is very special.
What part of Africa?
I've been to a very quick trip through South Africa, but Tanzania and Zimbabwe.
Mhm.
Tanzania would be my favorite. And we've also been very fortunate. My daughter went to college in Paris, France. So got to spend a lot of time in Paris,
Mhm.
a lot of time in France, visited Italy, and
Mhm.
just love both those places.
Mhm.
Love the
Right.
people.
Okay. Do you ever go out west here in the United States?
Yeah, my son lived in Denver for a while,
Mm.
and we grew up skiing out west. Uh, I've driven across this country a few times.
Have you?
Always loved doing that.
Mhm.
Uh,
Was that
but
when you were younger?
no, not really.
I guess.
First time I drove across the country was in college. A group of fraternity brothers and I rented a van and drove to LA and back.
Just for fun. It's a road
Pretty
trip.
much
Road
just
trip.
for fun.
Road trip.
Yeah,
Mhm.
hit a bunch of baseball stadiums across the way, ate some good food, saw the Grand Canyon. That's a story unto itself. But
Definitely a bucket list item. I mean, I haven't even done that, but I think that sounds like a great idea. I'd like to do something like
oh
that.
yeah, just do something crazy every now and
Yeah,
then.
absolutely. Keep life interesting for sure. You also enjoy going to the Keys.
I do. We recently purchased a small business down in the Keys, and I'm probably down there about every 6 weeks or so.
Mm-hmm.
Um, love the fishing, diving, love the people, the restaurants.
Do you want to tell us the name of that company?
It's Keys Holiday Rentals in Islamorada, Florida.
Okay. So if you're down the Keys and look for a place to stay, just look up that website and
Yeah.
it'll help them have a place to stay. What else? Is there anything else? I've asked about your family. Where do you like to go? What do you like to do? Is there anything else you'd like to conquer or see before you are no longer on this earth?
I'm not into the conquering a whole lot. I just want to kind of go with the flow, soak it all in, and you know, be a positive influence, no matter where I am or what
Absolutely.
I'm doing.
Absolutely. I think you get that from your mom. I think she's set a good example for you boys.
Mom and dad,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you, it's probably been 2 weeks now since Jimmy Buffett passed away.
Yeah.
Always had a smile,
Mm-hmm.
always laughing,
Yes, he
always
did.
enjoying what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is a great way to live your life.
That's right. That's right. I do want to. I had one more thought. You have a interest in war history.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about your interest in that.
Well, when I was in third grade, I was not exactly the best student. Well, I wasn't the best student ever, but we they would drag us to the library one day a week, and I'd walk around in the library, and you look at they herd you over to the kids' books.
Wait a minute, where did you go to elementary school?
A little school in Georgetown called Winyah Academy.
Okay.
And we would all go stand over there and look at the kids' books, and I see Spot Run or something like that. So I wandered around and was looking, and it was this book with a battleship on it. I thought, well, that looks pretty cool. And it was still probably a kid's book to some degree, if there is such a thing with battleship on it. But yeah, I started reading about history and military history, and that was kind of cool because my dad was in the Navy.
That's
my
right.
grandfather was in the Army in World War II. So I started to look around and understood that my father's peers and my grandfather's peers, they did a lot. And I found that very impressive, but also very interesting. So I became a history major in college and was very fortunate that when I got there, the head of the history department at the College of Charleston, I'd already read 3 or 4 of his books.
Wow.
Well, he thought that was pretty weird, to be honest with you.
You didn't think you were a brown noser?
No, he started asking me questions. He goes, "You really did read these things, didn't you?" So, yeah, his name was Clark G. Reynolds. He was the head of the history department, and I believe he was also the head of the USS Yorktown Museum.
Wow.
Yeah, he had a role there that was, I don't know if it was emeritus or what, but he may have been the director. But that was pretty cool. So he became my advisor, and I managed to graduate from College of Charleston with a degree in history.
All right, that's pretty interesting. And you did mention your father and grandfather, certainly the greatest generation. My father was also part of that World War II, 82nd Airborne. I think you have some 82nd Airborne in your family. Did you know?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of. My grandfather was a combat engineer, and I believe it was the 1244th Combat Engineer Battalion. And my dad, not part of the greatest generation. He was a baby boomer. Served in the U.S. Navy on the USS Enterprise.
We're so thankful for their service. For all of our fathers and grandfathers' service has brought us to the peace that we have in this great country today. And I love living here. I love living in this part of the country too. And I'm proud to be an American. I know you're proud to be an American too. Well, Hampton, thank you so much for joining us today on episode 11 of A Slice of Pie. And I hope you're going to watch this.
I will.
And become a follower. And if you're in Pawleys Island and you want to see Hampton, stop by. He's a lot of times here in the morning. And he's always good to listen. He'll listen to you, and he'll just share a cup of coffee with you, whatever you're doing. So,
well, that sounds good.
Okay.
Kat, thank you. I appreciate you asking, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Have a great day. I'll see you soon.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
You enjoyed episode 11 of A Slice of Pie. Hampton Peace did a great job sharing all his stories with us. I especially love the bonfire story of how he met his wife, Boo Peace. That was pretty good. Also, if you're listening to this as a podcast, if you would subscribe to the podcast or rate and review us. If you're listening on YouTube, please like us, rate and review us there. Share it with your friends and family. We'll be back next week with episode 12. But until then, I hope you have a great weekend. I hope your college football team wins and your pro football teams wins. And I hope that Travis Kelce can hang on to Taylor Swift for yet one more week. See you soon.